So today's lecture is lecture 5. The focus is on application software, and we are going to be talking about what in mobile phones you know as apps. We are going to be talking about application. You call them apps on mobile phone. Apps is a short form for applications. So in the computer world, where you use desktops, laptops, you call them applications or application software. So this is the fifth in the series of lectures. So we've already finished 4 that check here. So at the end of this lecture, you need to be able to answer the questions: what is application software? What are the different kinds of applications? And how do you categorize applications? So categorize may be a new word for many of you, but when I come to that slide, I have provided Google translation in Tamil. Hopefully Google has done a correct job. And I'll explain what categorize means when we get there. We are going to be looking at applications by file type, different types of files, function meaning what they do, domain meaning where are they used, and execution meaning where do they actually run, where does the software run. And then we will be learning about how to launch applications. Now coming to quiz time, today the format is going to be a little different. Nitya and I talked about how to involve students a bit more. So from this lecture onwards, quiz time is going to be run by Shilpa, and from next lecture, someone else is going to offer to lead this session. So the quiz time is going to be led by Shilpa, who is one of the students here, and which means the hope is the participation by students is going to be more. Shilpa is going to be asking questions in English as well as in Tamil. And the quiz time slide actually does have a Tamil translation of the questions. And Google Translate was used for all the translations. Hopefully the translations are accurate and you all can understand it. But as with all previous lectures, if you have a question anytime in between, you want to ask in English, you want to ask in Tamil, that is perfectly fine. Please feel free to ask questions. The big difference this time is in some slides, if I felt that some words were too new for you, I've tried to provide a Tamil translation. And the quiz time is going to be both in English and Tamil. And thank you, Shilpa, for offering to lead it for this particular lecture. Really appreciate it for you to step forward to do it. And Monday next time, we'll figure out who wants to lead it. And I would like every one of you to come forward and lead the quiz time. Why will it help you? It will help you with a lot of things. For one thing, to connect with your own other students, your own what we call in English as peers. Peers meaning people in the same situation like you, like other students, right? The other thing is leadership. It will, if you lead a discussion, it will build leadership in you. And when you apply for jobs, people actually like leaders. People who can become managers, people who can become team leaders. So which is why you should lead it. The other reason you should lead it is it will help you practice your English, practice your Tamil translation, connect the two. And the biggest reason, you will understand the topic even better. If you lead a discussion, you will understand it even better. Okay. So having said that, let's just jump straight into the topic. This is a diagram you've seen from the previous lecture, where we actually, the last lecture, where we incorporated the file system. Incorporate means included. Included means we put it inside the operating system software layer, right? So we said file system is part of the operating system. It is implemented, meaning the operating system software gives you all the features, facilities to create files, folders, everything. So this is only to help you connect with what we said last time. But this time we are going to change the diagram a little bit just so we understand it better. So what we have done for the sake of simplicity meaning making it easier to understand, we just show the file system as a smaller box. Because the way the operating system implements it does not matter how I create the diagram. The diagram is only to understand, right? Our focus for this lecture is the blue layer. The blue layer where you have applications, apps, applications, application software. In the blue layer here, I've identified a few different applications, but we'll talk more about it as we go forward. What are apps, right? What are apps? What are applications? What is application software? So you already use so many apps. You use WhatsApp, right? You use email apps. Maybe you use email in your web browser. Web browser is an app, right? Chrome, your Chrome web browser in your mobile phone is an app. App is an application. So in the computer world, we call them applications. In the mobile phone world, you call them apps because they're kind of smaller in scope and size and everything. So any software that allows a user, you are the user, I am a user, Nitya is a user, Dhanashri is a user. When I use my mobile phone, when I use my laptop, I'm a user. Any software that allows a user to do something very specific, right? If you use the photo app, you're working with photos. It is a very, very specific function, a very specific use, a very specific way to use the app, right? So if you're using the camera app, you're using it to take pictures, photos. So it is a very, very specific or one function or a little more than one function, right? A use. We call it service sometimes, a very specific service that it provides. But think of it as a use. So what are the different kinds of ways we use apps for, right? We use it to create documents. We use it to browse the World Wide Web. When you're doing search on the internet, on the World Wide Web using your browser, you are actually browsing. Browsing means you're kind of looking around. Looking around is browsing. You're using email apps or maybe Gmail to send email. Your Gmail is an app. Then you're using Zoom for video conference, like in this particular thing. So what is application software? Any software that allows a user to do something very specific. It is very different from operating system software, which presents hardware. You can actually think of operating system software as a special kind of application software where its only application is presenting the hardware features or how to use the hardware better for you, right? That is its only application. So application software is a very general way to describe software. But more often, we talk of application software as all the software that sits on top of the operating system, the blue layer. How to categorize applications? So I have done a Tamil translation of the word categorize. Hopefully, Google Translate has done a good job, and sometimes the translated word is sophisticated, meaning more complicated Tamil, like you may see in a textbook. But I'm hoping it will help you, even your Tamil, if that is the case, right? What do we mean by categorizing applications? Categorize means you take applications of different. Yes? Question? Hello? If there is no question, please go on mute, please. Categorize really means, let's say we have students from different states in India, right? You can bunch them. Bunching means put them together, putting them together. So I can say these are students from Tamil Nadu. Then I can say these other students are from Andhra Pradesh. Then yet another students are from Karnataka, which means I've created categories. The categories are Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka. So categorization means how to bunch them, how to put them together by category. The category in the case of students for states, right? By state. I separated the students by state. So categorization really means separating these applications by various different ways, and the various different ways are in the box shown below. I can categorize an application based on the type of file it works on, right? A document, a Word document is a type of file. JPEG, a photo image is a type of file. So I can categorize an application based on the type of file it uses. I can categorize an application by application function, meaning what does it do? What does it do for me, right? If it is a camera app, it takes pictures. That is what it does for me. So I can categorize separate applications by type of file, type of application function, type of domain where it is used. What do I mean by domain? There is a Tamil word, the Google translation for domain. Domain literally means the broad area where it is used. For example, you're all going to government schools, right? You are getting from your school, what are you getting? You're getting education. So education is a domain. Then if people get, basically when you elect your ministers and chief minister, they all form the government. Government is a domain. So you can talk of software that is used in education. You can talk of software that is used in the government. You can talk of software that is used for internet. All these are domains. So where the software is used also can be used to separate these applications. The next thing, you can also categorize software by where the software program actually runs. Does it run on my mobile phone? Then it's a mobile phone app. Does it run on a laptop? Then it's a laptop application. Does it run on a desktop? Desktop, then it's a desktop application. Does it run on a server computer, like a big fat computer? Then it is a server kind of application. Okay. Questions? All right, moving on. So we get into how to categorize applications or how to separate applications by different type. So you're already familiar with all of the types of applications shown on the left side here, right? In kind of orange, reddish orange color. You're familiar with documents, so we have document applications. You're familiar with photos, we have photo applications. You're familiar with videos, you have video applications. You're familiar with audio, meaning recording audio, songs, your speech. You can do, when you do a phone conversation, you can record the audio, right? So there are audio applications, sound applications. So in this gray box here, you see the different applications that are separated by what kind of file type they work on. So for PDF documents, you have Acrobat Reader. I don't know how many of you have Acrobat Reader, but most mobile phones have some app to read PDF documents. Then for word processing, you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Google Docs, right? I'm presuming that's not a question. Please go on mute. Photo applications. Your camera app is a photo application. It is also a camera application, right? In Microsoft Windows, you have an application called Paint. You can use Paint to do simple drawings, simple coloring. You can also use Paint to actually cut pictures, right? Cut the top off, cut the bottom off. It's called editing photos. You can also change the resolution. If, for example, what do we mean by resolution? If you have a very good camera, you get a very good picture, very high quality picture. By resolution, we are talking about the quality of the picture. Is it high quality or lower quality? So we also talked about file types even in the last lecture. So I'm not going to go into details about JPEG, MPEG, MP3, all of that. If you have doubts on those, go back to the YouTube video of the last lecture. Go to the particular slide where we talked about file types, where I talk about JPEG, MPEG, MP3. If you have questions, you can always post on the WhatsApp group. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So moving on, now we are talking about applications by function. Function meaning what do they do? What do they do for me? What do they do for you, right? So very simple. If you're browsing the web, the kind of software you use to browse the web browsing, you call it a web browser. Your Google Chrome is a web browser. On laptops and desktops, you get a web browser called Firefox. On Windows operating system, you get Microsoft's Internet Explorer. On Apple companies' Mac computers, you get a web browser called Safari. Okay, so these are all different application software that all do the same thing. And what is that same thing? Web browsing. Okay. And what is web browsing? You are basically looking for things using that software on the World Wide Web. Now you have one function is video conferencing, like Zoom, Google Meet, right? They are applications for video conferencing. You're already familiar with applications for email, Gmail. Then Microsoft has something for email called MS Microsoft Outlook. Then in the Linux space and where you get a lot of free software, there are application software, email software called Thunderbird. It is not very important, but if anybody ever wants to do a lot more in the Linux and open source and free software space, there are a lot of things available on the internet. Everything is free. Then in the database is a particular application. We talked about database is a kind of information organization in the last class, right? In the last lecture. So there are database application softwares in the Linux and open source free software space. You have something called MySQL. In Microsoft, you have SQL Server. Then there's a very big company called Oracle. Oracle has its own software for databases. The thing is, even jobs, right? People who have simple jobs will do web browsing, all of that. People who get trained in databases, trained in database software, they tend to get jobs where the salaries are higher, the income is higher. So if you ever get a chance to get trained in databases, I would do it because the salaries are higher. Now, applications by domain where they are used, right? I explained to you, education is a domain, internet is a domain, government is a domain, hospitals, yeah, they are a domain. NGOs are a domain, right? Domain means any area where I can use some software, right? Business software is a domain. Any software that companies use, we call it business software. So here I've just given some examples. Remember, everywhere we have examples. It does not mean that is the only way to categorize applications. It does not mean what I'm showing is the only way to do it. There are multiple ways to do it, and this is one way to do it, and a few different ways that I show. So in the internet and World Wide Web domain, you have web browsers, right? You have web browsers like Chrome, Firefox. Since Zoom is primarily uses the internet and a World Wide Web model, we also call Zoom basically an application belonging to the World Wide Web internet domain. Google Meet is another example. It uses the World Wide Web. It uses the internet. It is the software that is in that domain. Now, when you look at office software that is used in offices, right? They're all the word processing, spreadsheet processing, presentation processing, presentations meaning PowerPoint, PPT, right? PowerPoint, Google Docs. They're all used in offices. They are in the domain of offices. Then in offices, people also do video conferencing because of COVID now, right? Everybody connects with their office colleagues meaning the people you work with, your boss, your team member. We use Zoom to talk with people. If I want to talk to Nitya, I use Zoom. So Zoom is office software. Graphics basically means anytime you play with colors, you play with media like photos, right? They are all the domain of graphics. In the domain of graphics, you have Microsoft Paint, you have any photo app is in the domain of graphics, any camera app. Adobe is a very big company that makes a lot of graphic software. They're all basically, they may have free versions, but almost all of them are paid for. They're very expensive, but they do a lot of things for you. Dhanashree here uses one Adobe video editing software. And they have multiple kinds of software. One of them is called Photoshop, which means you can work with photos. Another they have called Illustrator. Then they have something for videos. Then multimedia, typically anything that is outside of graphics. It is video, it is audio, how to integrate video tracks, how to integrate audio tracks, how to do all of that, how to make a movie, right? If you ever want to do a wedding video, you will actually be shooting it on a camcorder, some kind of a camera, right? And then you are going to be going to your home or your office and you're going to be editing it. You're going to be taking a video track, you're going to be taking an audio track, you're going to combine it, you're going to put names, labels. All of that is multimedia software. Now, applications by execution location. What do we mean by execution? Execution means where do you run the program? Where does the program actually run? Where does it live? Where does it run? If you use your photo app, your camera app, that app is actually running on your mobile phone, right? If you are using Gmail, where is the application running, right? Now the thing is, a part of the application is running on your phone, but most of the application is running on a Google server, Google Gmail server far away. It could be in the US, it could be in India, it could be somewhere else. You don't know where it is, but it is running somewhere else, right? So where you run the software, you can categorize applications by where it is running. So what I have shown here is a mobile app on top, an app that completely runs on the mobile phone, like your photo app, camera app. The next I have shown an application that runs completely on a desktop computer. PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint and Word, for example, are computer applications that run entirely on the desktop. They don't need the internet, okay? Now, the last type of application is where it needs the internet, because the main software logic or how it is actually going to work for you that main thing actually runs on a web server somewhere else. That web server can be in Google in the US, it can be Google in Europe, it can be Google in India. But there is a small piece of that application that runs on your mobile phone and on your desktop. And that small piece that runs on your desktop is what we call a client. So what is this client here? In almost all World Wide Web applications, the client is either your web browser or it is a mobile app, right? You can also have desktop applications that are clients, but you and I will not run into them so much. But you will run into mobile app clients. For example, if you have a Gmail app on your mobile phone, that Gmail app is literally, it is a client app. Client app meaning it cannot run on its own. It needs a server somewhere, the web server. The Gmail app on your mobile phone actually talks to a Google Gmail server somewhere else, and it talks over the internet. So these kind of applications we call client server applications. The piece of software that runs on your mobile phone or desktop, we call it the client software. The piece of logic that works on a remote server, web server somewhere else over the internet, that we call the server or web server for World Wide Web. So this kind of is useful for you because you are going to be running, you're already running into Google search, you're already running into Gmail, you're already running into Google Docs, you are going to be running into Google Drive. Anytime you use Google, it is over the, and it is almost always client server software. Okay, client server software. Now, anytime something does not work, you have to figure out whether it is the client problem on the mobile phone or the desktop. Is it an internet problem or is it the Google server problem? So in order to know if something goes wrong, where the problem is, it helps to know how it works. Okay, if everything works fine, you don't need to know. You need to know only if you're curious and you want to know. You want to be educated. But if something goes wrong, you need to know how it works. Then you will know where the problem is. Okay. So next we go into how to launch applications. Now, the Tamil word for launch, I've actually used the word for start, how to start applications, and hopefully the Tamil word is correct using from Google Translate. What do I mean by launching applications? What do I mean by starting applications? Whenever you want to use your photo app, camera app on your mobile phone, you just tap on the app, right? You tap on the app and and the app comes up. That action of tapping on the app and the app running for you is called starting or launching the app, launching the application. Now, in the mobile phone, you tap with your finger, right? But which is what we show in the second category, so the second thing here, number 2, with the blue hand. That is what you do on your mobile phone. You tap, right? But on a desktop and a laptop, there are multiple ways to start an application. So you need to know how to start an application in a desktop and a laptop. You cannot tap with your finger, okay, unless the screen supports what is called the touch screen. Unless it supports finger tapping, you cannot use your finger. So you have to do it somewhere by some different other method. The different other methods are, we are going to show it to you today in the practical session, but in this slide, I'm going to talk about it. The different methods are, in the top you see, I can take a file that is an image file, a video file, or a document, and I double click on double click or tap on that particular file, then basically you can actually that launches the application, because the operating system software knows which application is supporting that particular type of file, right? So you can click on files in most operating systems on laptops and desktops. You have to do double clicking. The double clicking was introduced by Microsoft, and it has become the standard way to do things now. But in operating systems, you can always go to the settings configuration of the operating system and change it to a single click if you want. But the default is double click everywhere. Now, double clicking, you can double click on the file type on the particular type of file to launch it. You can actually find where the application is and double click on the application itself, right? Or there are menus. You have all these pop-up and menus that come. I will show you today. You can click on the menu, and in the menu, the applications are almost always divided by domain. For example, education software. You can look into the education domain and see which software you want to use. You can look in the internet domain and look at whether you want to use a web browser or whether you want to use Zoom, right? That is another way to launch it. One of the most common ways to launch is the applications you use most often. You have in something called a dock. Today I will show you what a dock is. The dock will be at the bottom of the desktop. Can everybody please go on mute, everybody. The dock is at the bottom of the desktop, so your applications will be in the dock. You can always launch your application in the dock. Okay, so this is all looks complicated, but we'll show it to you in the practical session on how to do it. Yeah. Any questions so far? Questions in English? Questions in Tamil? Okay. So now we look at how to launch web applications. So all the applications we talked about how to launch them in the previous thing, they were all applications that run on your mobile phone and on your computer, desktop and laptop. Web applications are a little different. So web applications can be launched using a web browser. You can go to your Chrome browser, and in the Chrome browser, you type the website, and the website gives you the web application. If you go to google.com, you get the Google search application. If you go to gmail.com, you get the Gmail email application. If you go to docs.google.com, you get the Google Docs application. Okay. The other way to do it is Google will have apps on your mobile phone. Those apps will also let you connect to Gmail. It will let you connect to Google Docs. It will let you connect to Google Search. So web applications are launched more often using web browser, but many of you are already used to particular apps running on your mobile phone, like WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a web application. It is an internet application. You don't even use the web browser for it. You just use the WhatsApp app. So mobile phone makes it an app model to access web applications. But in the desktop, you don't have applications like that, client applications for all web applications. You mostly use the web browser to access web applications. Okay. So I will quickly run through application examples. We already looked at web browser, what kind of applications you use for web browsing. We looked at word processing, spreadsheets, and presentations. These are the Office applications. We are not going to talk about them in this session. We are going to have a separate session on 1 hour plus session on word processing. another separate session on spreadsheets where we are going to teach you how to use it. Then another separate session on presentations where we are going to teach you how to use it. Then art and photo editing, I'm not going to go too much into detail. After our 10-week digital literacy program, for those that are interested, those that want to have some fun and enjoy doing photo editing, I will actually do a class on photo editing, and this class will be done only if you sign up for the class, which means you have to show interest. If you shall say, I am interested in the photo editing class, we will hold it. If you don't sign up for the class, which means you don't tell us that you're interested, then we don't hold the class. Okay, so this is extra. Extra meaning it is not part of the program. It is done only if you want to have it. Same with video editing. Dharnashri here is a HUM member, and she is very eager to actually teach you how to do video editing. She does a lot of video editing. She posts our HUM lecture videos on YouTube. She edits it, posts it on YouTube. She edits cooking videos for my sister. She posts it. She puts caption labels on the videos. She does a lot of smart editing. And Dhanashri will be very happy to lead a separate session. But again, this will be offered to only those who sign up. That means you have to show interest. Remember, you have to be motivated. Motivated means you should say, I want it, then we will do it. Okay? All right, we are now we are at the quiz time session. And Shilpa, are you ready?
SD.
All right, Shilpa, this slide is yours. And there are 5 questions. So lead this session. Basically, my recommendation is for each question, you read out the English question, you do the Tamil translation, and you ask students to answer the question. They can answer by unmuting themselves, right? And once they answer, you repeat the answer. Okay, repeat the question, repeat the answer. Once they understand the answer, we move on to the second question, the next question. Okay?
Okay. Okay, Ji.
All right, Shilpa, and thank you so much for leading this session, this part. Go ahead.
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து அவங்க என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா அவங்க கொடுத்திருக்க 5 கொஸ்டின் வந்து என்ன இங்கிலீஷ்ல ஒரு வாட்டியும் சொல்றாங்க. உங்களுக்கு புரியல அப்படின்னா நான் மறுபடியும் தமிழ்ல சொல்வேன். அடுத்து உங்க ஆன்சர் சார் வந்து ஆன்சர் சொல்வாரா, அதை வந்து நான் எனக்கு புரிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு நான் தமிழ்ல ரிப்பீட் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்றாங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நான் வந்து உங்களை கொஸ்டின் கேட்கிறேன். வாட் டஸ் an application do? அதாவது அப்ளிகேஷன் வந்து என்ன செய்யுது அப்படின்னு கேக்குறாங்க. யாராச்சும் தெரிஞ்சவங்க ஆன்சர் பண்ணலாம். இல்ல நான் சொல்ற क्वेश्चन புரியலன்னா நீங்க இன்னொரு வாட்டி கேட்கலாம். ஜி,
it is used to create document.
Who was that?
Dharni sir.
Dharni, very good, Dharni. Yes, it can be used to create documents. What else?
Browsing, send email, video conference.
Very good. So Shilpa, basically an application is something that is useful for you to do something, correct? And that something can be creating a document, accessing email, it can be web browsing. So an application is something that gives you something useful. Useful meaning email is useful for you, right? So application is basically provides a service. It provides a particular use, a specific use for you. That specific use is what Dharani pointed out. The specific use can be documents, creating documents, checking email, web browsing. Those are all examples. Good, very good. Thank you, Dharani. Move on, Shilpa.
Next question. How can applications be categorized? இந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் வந்து அதாவது இந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் நிறைய வகை இருக்குன்னு சொல்றாங்க. அது வந்து இந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் எந்த வகையில நம்ம வந்து எப்படி சொல்லலாம் அப்படின்னு கேக்குறாங்க.
Document application, photo application, video application, audio applications.
Who was that?
Deekshanya, sir.
Oh, Deekshanya. Very good, Deekshanya. Thank you for joining us today. That is one way of categorizing, right? Meaning
Yes.
how to separate applications. You can separate applications by what kind of file they work on, which is the document types, what kind of the graphic images they work on, photos, right? By
Yeah.
file type. You can also categorize applications by function. Documenting is a function, emailing is a function, web browsing is a function. You can also categorize applications by domain. For example, software that is used only in schools, Google Classroom, right? Only in schools. That's a kind of software that would be in the education domain, school, right? Internet domain is web browser. So thank you, Deekshanya. Very good. Move on, Shilpa.
What kind of application is Microsoft? அதாவது இது இந்த மைக்ரோசாஃப்ட் வந்து என்ன வகையான அப்ளிகேஷன் கேக்குறாங்க.
Document
Excel.
application.
Very good. Very good. Move on, Shilpa.
நெக்ஸ்ட் கொஸ்டின், ஃபோர்த் கொஸ்டின் வந்து வாட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் அப்ளிகேஷன் இஸ் கூகுள் சர்ச்? இது வந்து நம்ம கூகுள் சர்ச்ல வந்து அதாவது எப்படி வகைப்படுத்திட்டு அதை நம்ம எப்படி யூஸ் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு கேக்குறாங்க.
Web application.
Very good. It is a web application. It is a web browsing application. It is an internet application, right? Now the question is, why is it an internet application? Why is it an internet application? Can Google search work without internet access? Yes or no?
No, it needs server.
Exactly. Google search will not work if you do not have internet access, right? If your prepaid phone, mobile phone, right? If you lose your data bandwidth, if you lose your charge on your prepaid phone, you don't have internet access, then you cannot use Google search. So Google search is dependent on the internet, which is why it is an internet application. Same with Gmail. Gmail will not work if you do not have internet, right? So you have to understand why a mobile app like photo app, camera app will work without internet, but Gmail and Google search will not work without internet, right? That is the difference. It is an internet application. It is a web application. A web application requires the internet. Very good. Move on, Shilpa. Last question.
ஃபிஃப்த் கொஸ்டின் வந்து வாட் ஆர் தி டிஃப்ரெண்ட் வேஸ் டு ஸ்டார்ட் ஆர் லான்ச் அண்ட் அப்ளிகேஷன்? அதாவது இந்த அப்ளிகேஷனை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றது, லான்ச்னாலும் தொடங்குறதுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. இந்த அப்ளிகேஷனை வந்து எத்தனை வழியில, நிறைய வழி இருக்குன்னு சொல்றாங்களா, அது என்னன்னு கேக்குறாங்க. அப்ளிகேஷனை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றதுக்கான நிறைய வழிகள், அதாவது இப்போ சார் கடைசியா சொல்லி முடிச்சாங்க இல்லையா?
Tap on app in your mobile phone.
Very good.
Double click on file or app application or application in window.
Very good.
Selection domain from pop-up or pull-down menu. Click on app in the dock.
Okay, very good. Somebody has done a very good job noting down all of those things. And you know what? I love such students. Anybody who is actually making notes, trying to make an effort to understand, and those students will basically, and I thank you for paying attention. Okay, very good job, fantastic. And Shilpa, big round of applause for Shilpa. Everybody clap for Shilpa for leading us today.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, Shilpa. Good job. Very good job.
Thank you,
And we move on to the practical session now. Okay, can you all see the desktop? Dhanashri, can you see the desktop?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so you all can see the desktop, and now we are going to basically look at how to work with applications on a desktop. This is basically a desktop computer, and the screen that you see is a desktop screen. Some people call it home screen these days. You have home screens on mobile phones. On the desktop screen is your home screen. And I have already logged in as a user, so you will not see the user login. So since I've already logged in, now look at, I'm going to use the mouse cursor here. And how do we launch applications? So since you learned files and folders last time, we'll go to the file manager, and Monica told us this is the file manager, right? Click on the file manager, and this file manager opens a window for you. And let's see, I go to the downloads folder, and last time we talked about what is in the downloads folder. Can someone tell me what is almost always in the downloads folder? How do files get in the downloads folder? When you download any file from the internet, it will go into the downloads folder. When you save a file from your email, it will go into the downloads folder. So there are 3 files in this downloads folder. How did I get these files in this folder? What I did was send these files to my Gmail account. I opened Gmail on this desktop computer using my web browser. I went into my email. I opened each email, and the attachment, which is the file attachment, I saved the file attachment. The moment I save it, it goes into the download folder. Okay. So now look at it. I have 3 different kinds of files here, right? There's something with a W on it, which is almost always a word processing document. There's another which looks like a laptop here, that is an image. Then the third one is actually says .pdf, which means it is a PDF file. So one of the ways to launch an application is you double click on the document, double click on the file. When you double click on the file, the application automatically opens. In this case, the application connected with Word documents is LibreOffice. Libre or Liber depends on where you live in the world. Okay, so what has happened now? I double clicked on the document file, and the document file just opened up using the LibreOffice application software. What is LibreOffice? It is nothing but word processing software. spreadsheet processing software like Microsoft Office. Anything that says Office will be like Microsoft Office. Open Office is like Microsoft Office. Okay, so this is just an example. We are going to do more serious word processing next week. So all I'm going to do is go to the file menu and I'm going to exit. Now we go to the image file. Well, the way to launch an image application, graphics application, is you double click on your image. What happened? An image application actually popped up. The image application is showing the file. Yeah, it is a particular kind of laptop. Okay. The laptop is just an image. Don't worry about the actual laptop that is shown here. I only wanted to show the image and the image application. Now, in Windows, if you want to close an application, there's an X, a red box, and X on top right corner of the window, of the actual window, and you can click on it to close the application. Now we move to the PDF file, double click on PDF. And what did this PDF file do? It launched a PDF reader, okay? Any application that lets you read PDF documents either is a PDF reader, or we call, some places it's called preview. Adobe company calls it Acrobat Reader. Okay, so this is a PDF file. It is nothing but a document that was created on some word processing software and saved as a PDF. So now we saw how to actually launch an application using the file itself, the file that was created. The next, we are going to look at how to launch applications from the dock. What is the dock? This bottom thing here, right? This whole thing at the bottom, where you see different icons, right? Different small images. That's called the dock, and you see some applications here already. I'm going to click on the X. X is for Excel, right? So click on it. And that is another way to launch an application. This time I do not have a file to work on. I'm creating a brand new file, which means since I do not have a file to work on, I'm creating a brand new file. So I have to actually go to the application, and the application may be in the dock. Now this has opened a spreadsheet application. We are going to talk in detail about how to use a spreadsheet application 2 lectures from now. So this is just an example. So I'm going to exit. Now, similarly, let's open a presentation application software from the dock. Okay, double click on presentation. Double click, actually, in this case, you can also single click. Okay, I think I clicked on the wrong one. Yes, this is the right one. It gives me a few options to start. I think, no, this is, what is this? Oh, this is email. I think I've clicked on the wrong thing, but let's go back to the correct one. Okay, this is mail application. I clicked on the mail application thinking it is presentation. That wasn't my intent, but anyway, you see, if you want to launch the mail application, you click on the mail thing. The presentation software is not in my dock, so it doesn't matter. What we will do is now look at how to go to the pop-up menu. You go to the pop-up menu in Windows, bottom left corner, you click on that Windows like symbol, then a menu pops up. Okay, and in the menu, it will give you multiple options. And the options actually give you software by domain, right? I can look at graphics. That is one domain of software. There's another domain for games. right? There is yet another domain for education. Then if you look at there's an office domain. So in the office domain, all the software applications are on the left. So I go to the left and I want to pick Impress. LibreOffice Impress is the one to be used for presentations. So I now click on Impress. So the first time you open, you want to create a new document, almost all of these will give you some options on how to create the new one, whether you want to start with a template. We will explain what a template is in the next few lectures. We do not care about creating a document for this session. So all we do is launch the application, we cancel it, and we quit. How do you quit? You go to the file menu, top left, you click on the file menu and you say exit. Okay, so now what we have done is gone through this whole exercise of how to launch applications and what are the different applications through in a desktop. What I also want to do is